Hi guys, and welcome to the video where we're finally going to have my 2025 reading journal choose some of the reads I end up picking out to read with you all today because I've been waiting so long to do this. It's kind of unreal, so let's just hop right in because it's finally freaking time. Now for context, it's been about a year since I first sat to pencil down some of the original spreads for this and then, get into it or whatever. But this is my 2025 reading journal, if you didn't already know. And for today's vlog, basically what I ended up planning about a year ago that is finally coming to fruition now is there's a bunch of spreads in this, kind of like prompts that could be used to choose my reads, and I wanted to do this video sooner, but I'm doing it now anyway, wherein we're actually gonna go back and look on some of the prompts and kind of use them to pick my reads for the week, because I have complete spreads full of prompts in this that I just haven't gotten back to. And so here we are. Do keep in mind though that now it is currently the end of the year, and throughout this year or whatever, I wanted to be consistent with my journal, which is why I have been going back on a recent basis and been filling these spreads out so they are updated to the best degree, which is why some of these are completely finished, which is why I should have come in sooner to do this video. But regardless, there are a couple spreads that are nearly done. They just need like 1 or 2 books read so I can mark them off or whatever. And so I figured it'd be satisfying to do this anyway because we could kind of finish off a couple spreads together, kind of knock off some of the books from my TBR as well, and it kind of feels multifunctional, which is why it's kind of perfect. And so that's what we're doing today. Flipping through my journal, the one spread that did caught my attention that I want for the first pick for this video specifically is my A to Z reading challenge. I'll have like a photo of it on screen so you guys can look at it if you want to, whatever, in detail. But essentially, this is supposed to be the one wherein I read one book for every letter of the alphabet, so the titles of the books should correlate, and the only alphabet I'm missing right now is the letter Q. So out of all the 230 something books I've read at this point in the year so far, I managed to read one book for every single alphabet except the letter Q, because for some reason the only Q books I could find were in the middle of series that I haven't started yet, and it's too late in the year to be doing any of that, which is why in today's video, essentially for the first book I'm picking out, I figured we could start by looking for a book that starts with Q first in a series, preferably, so I don't have to start and read like 4 books before I get to my Q book, and get that done and kind of update this spread so then my spread is completely complete because I'm missing only the letter Q. So I did go through my TBR, and the one book that I wasn't able to find that would perfectly fit this purpose is Quicksilver. Do you guys remember hearing of it about a year ago when it first started blowing up? Because I mean, it's perfect. That's all I need. It's a fantasy romance book. That's what I'm in the mood for at the moment. And it kind of lines up and ticks all the boxes because it's the first in a series and it starts with Q. So I did go ahead and start on Kindle last week during exam season, but because of exams I didn't really get through much of it, and it is 600 pages long and it's taking a bit. So right now I'm not really sure if I want to continue on Kindle because it is kind of slow and I am getting a little bored, which is why I'm thinking, while this will definitely be the first book I'm reading for today's vlog, maybe I'll switch over to audiobook so I can get a few errands done as I'm listening. And that's what we're doing in today's video, because I want to get my nails done, make them look all cute for all the bookmas videos. I want to go ahead and finish the 2 assignments that I've been given now to submit for my fashion class deadline for next week, and there's so many other things I need to do with regards to my degree as well, and it would be perfect if I just got the audiobook. So that's what I'm thinking about right now. That's the dilemma I'm in, because I already have it on Kindle. I've already started highlighting a bunch of it here, but then I want the audiobook. So I'll figure out what I end up doing, but I'll see you guys in a bit once I have decided and once I have gotten some more progress in on it so I can come speak to you about it. But that's definitely the first book we're reading today, and getting Q ticked off my alphabet game because I want my spread complete. That's literally all I want, and we're so close to getting it done. So here we are. Apart from this, there are a bunch of other fun spreads that we can get to. I think my book bingo is complete, but apart from that, we'll just find something else later once I'm done with this book. And so I'll just update once I finish off with all of that, and then we'll come in later to pick my next read. But so far, this video is already off to a great start because I'm so excited to see where it goes. And here we are. So see you guys in a bit once I do have things to tell you about Quicksilver, but that's it. Bye. Hi guys. So it is in fact been like, I think 3 days is my last update to you, which is so funny because if I would have read every single day and if I would have put in the hours every single day, this would have been the day technically that I could have winded the video up. But because I haven't had the time like in the past couple of days, because it has been the start of the new semester, I've been busy with other things. It took me all this time to actually get through the book, and because it's like a longer fantasy one, I just finished, and so I think we'll come speak about that first and then we'll get into the rest of the books, because it's so crazy to me. I could have ended the vlog at this point, but I'm just coming in for my first book update, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's more about the fact that because it's the beginning of a new semester and everyone starts taking everything seriously for the first couple of weeks, everything's like hectic and like work-wise it's kind of crazy, but I'm sure things will settle over in a couple of weeks. Until they do, my reading speed is going to be like absolutely horrendous because I'm not getting a lot of time to read. The time that I am getting though, I am spending into it, and so all that time that I got, I did end up listening and reading out Quicksilver because I have it on Kindle, but then I downloaded the audiobook because it was going a little slow for me, and in the midst of everything, listening while I was working, listening while I was doing other things, listening while I got hardly any progress, but I think still a little bit on my first embroidery thing that I have to submit. I mean, it's not bad. I finished it out, so I guess we can come speak about that now. Basically, for a quick premise about this book, it follows this girl, Seraphine. For context, she lives in this world wherein there's like only desert. There's like 2 suns shining down on them, and all the people are literally suffering from scarcity of water, so they would like kill and be killed just to get 1 glass of water to drink, which is so wild because in our times or whatever, we don't really understand the kind of privilege we have to be getting all these resources. And just reading this book, you get to watch how there's like a whole kingdom of people who would literally fight just for the water that you take for granted. And so basically in this context, she is kind of like a pickpocket and a thief in that sense, because she's doing anything she can to survive. Already, because of past things that happened with her mother, society has almost, I guess, cancelled her, and she's not really supposed to be alive in the first place, but she is anyway, and living off in secret, trying to fend for herself, for her brother. She has this thing wherein she steals from the queen's water reservoirs, and she does whatever she can to pass by. In their realm also, you need to keep in mind that if water is such a scarcity, there's like other precious resources and goods that are even higher up on the list. So if, for example, like metals and stuff. And so one day she actually ends up stealing a guard's gauntlet that gets her in a far bigger bucket load of trouble than you'd expect. And so before you know it, this girl who was fending off for herself, for her only living family that's left, she's now being captured by the queen's guard. She's looking down the face of death. It looks like the point of no return because she has to be punished for her actions so that people don't like follow in her footsteps, and the queen doesn't have to fight off a rebellion. And so before anything can be done, I don't know how she does it, but at the very beginning you realize she has magic, because through her magic, she's just a human, keep in mind. She opens this like portal between realms, and essentially it's like this thing wherein there's something called Quicksilver, and she can use that to kind of activate it and transport herself between kingdoms. But because she's already on the brink of death, all she does is open it, and as it turns out, Death himself walks through, and he actually takes her along with him. So now for context, as it turns out, Death is actually this guy called Kingfisher. He's a fae. He kind of guards this gate, and he is essentially supposed to be like a crazy one or whatever. The kingdom that he comes from, everyone hates him, and not a lot of great stuff is going on, but accidentally she ends up binding herself to him. He's almost like the enemy per se, but then it's all very morally grey and stuff. And now that she's in the Fae lands or whatever, firstly she needs to figure out how to survive, because she's the only human over there that's been in that kingdom or whatever for like easily 1,000 years at that point. But also the realm that she opened, the portal, it hasn't been opened for like millennia, and thanks to that, now the king of the Feylands kind of wants her to figure out how to keep opening the portals, because there's this like war that's been going on for centuries in their lands, and if she can open portals for them, they can kind of get resources from other kingdoms and kind of win the war that's been waging and save their people. And so now she's in this Fey world, forced to do the Fey bidding, and she just wants to get back home, see her brother Hayden, figure out what else to do with that. And so basically it's just kind of like a story of her trying to survive, but also figure out what's actually going on in the kingdom she's in right now, and figure out how to help them too, because as she goes along with it, she starts making friends, and she doesn't really want their families and their lives to get destroyed if she can do something about it. But at the same time, if they keep using her powers, they'll burn her up, and she just wants to be gone. So that's basically the whole storyline. You're also trying to figure out what's with her powers and everything, because she's very interesting. She's called the alchemist, but then how does that make sense? Because she's just a human, and there's other things going on. And then with everything else, there's also a romance happening between her and Kingfisher. Very slow burn, but it's so good. And so here we are. I really enjoyed this book per se. I'll say the beginning was great, the middle was really long, slow and boring, but I feel like it definitely made up for it now with the end, because the plot twist at the very end, I couldn't stop listening. I wish I was joking, it just kept hitting, and the way it ended off right now, I'm so grateful I waited to read this book, because the second book in the series just came out last week, which means I can literally start at any point now. I have access to it, because the way it ends off, it's crazy. It's like the biggest like plot twist you could ever expect. And so this book is like a great reminder why I'm loving reading fantasy these days, because truly when it gets you, and this is such a good example because it was such a good time. Sailors too, I feel like in most fantasy books that I've read, at least up until right now, it's my fault. I don't know why I never connect with the female leads. I always find them to be spineless, no backbone, they just aren't strong enough. For context, I haven't read Throne of Glass, so don't come for me because I've heard she's really good in that. But in this one specifically, I really enjoyed Saris's character too, because she is such like a girl boss. She's standing up for everything. She's not the stupid human. She's like truly smart and making all these like important decisions and not getting sidelined and being dumb or whatever. And so I had a good time with that too. The romance as well, it was such a slow burn. It was so fun. I loved Kingfisher so much. Can't wait to see how it goes in the next book. And I actually found out that it may be a love triangle, so I'm really praying not, because I love Kingfisher. Can it please just stay that way? And the things he said, that's all I'm gonna say. The slow burn, the grovel in this was so good, and I had such a good old time. It's just the middle that kind of threw me off for a bit, because I feel like this book was a little too long. It does make sense in the context of the fantasy world because it's like the first in a series, but I definitely was bored at some bits and waiting for stuff to happen. And when it finally did, I mean, I was happy it started happening, but at some points I was a little bored and just waiting for the book to be done. So I'm happy I read it, but then also mixed feelings when it comes to that. But regardless, here we are. I think I'm gonna give it like 4 stars. So happy to have read it. And with this book, we also managed to check off the Q letter that I needed for my journal spread, which means my alphabet spread is completely complete this year. I actually got it, and I'm so happy I did, because that's like one of my first spreads I've ever actually gone ahead and fully finished. And so that's really fun. Did it with y'all. Had a good time doing it with this book too, and I feel like it was the perfect like banger to end off for that spread at least. Another thing I just wanted to say quickly about this book though is the fact that there's fae in it, and this is so weird to me, but Actor also has fae in it. That's like my favorite fantasy book series ever, even though I've only read like the first couple books. And it's so funny to me because I know they're both fae, but every time fae things kept happening in this, I was just like, oh my god, that's just like what happened in Actor in regards to the fae, not the storyline. And I keep forgetting that they're fae. They're exactly the kind of fae that is Lyssa and fae and whatnot from Akatar, but I still kept getting so surprised when actual fae stuff kept coming in this, because I was just like, oh my god, Akatar. And this is not groundbreaking, it's not funny anymore, it's just me thinking everything to Akatar despite it being that concept. I don't know how to explain it to you, but basically anything that happened in the fae sense or whatever, if I've already read about it in Akatar, I was just like, oh my god, that's exactly like Akatar. And it's not, because it's just like a fae thing. But for me, it was groundbreaking because this is like the first fae book I think I've read apart from Akatar, and so everything in my head goes back to that. But yeah, that really got me off guard every time it happened because it was so funny. But regardless, here we are. I'm so happy I read this, and now can't wait to see what happens in the next book, and especially where everything picks off from, because the cliffhanger we left off on, I want to see what happens in the world. I want to see what happens with the politics, because where we ended up, it's so crazy, and it's like the last thing you'd expect, but the way it happens, I'm sorry, I'm shook. And then the romance on top of everything else, I want to see where things go for Sarah and Kingfisher, because the thing that happened at the very end of this one changes everything that's gonna happen or what you'd expect. And so now I can't wait to see where it goes. So I'm happy I read this, but now I also do want a break from fantasy, because I feel like this was a lot of brain power from me in the past couple days at least, and I want something easy to go right now because I am struggling with so many other things at the moment. So I think right now I will go look back on the spreads, but hopefully pick like a romance or something of the sort, maybe like a mystery book, just not another fantasy, because I know there's like a lot of fantasy books that could be interpreted from the prompts and stuff that I've got in my journal, but I'm not really sure if I want to jump right into another fantasy book, especially because this one took me a little bit to get through. So we'll just see what I end up doing. I'm really hoping I can find like a good romance to get into. I know there's a couple good second chance ones on the list which I might want to consider, so maybe that's what I'll do. But yeah, we're gonna keep a little bit of like a break before I get back into fantasy again, use my brain power again, and so I'll figure out what easy cheesy book I end up picking up, and hopefully I'll come update you guys now tomorrow, because it's too late right now, but now tomorrow with like more consistent updates and the fact that I'm actually reading again and reading at a better pace than I was in the last couple days. Because listen, I just want to read. There's nothing wrong with that. That's all I want to do. So that's what I will do, and I'll see you guys in a bit once I have more updates to give you. But that was the first book for the video, and already off to such a great start because this was a really good one. So see you guys in a bit now once I have updates on the next one, what I end up picking out. But that's it. Bye. Okay guys, so it's now the next night, I guess you can say. It is later, obviously. I have been working the entire evening, busy with other college stuff, but basically now I've had the free time to come kind of sit down and lock in, because the last time I said I was going to be picking up a romance, I did. That was last night. I did continue reading it all the way throughout. When I tell you, I literally couldn't put it down, and at this point I just finished, so I had to come in and update, which is why here we are. The next book for this video I picked out or whatever is called the Bromance Book Club. And now for a quick premise before I give you my thoughts, because I'm done at this point. I binged it. I have so many things to say, but firstly about premise. Basically it follows Gavin. I think he's like a baseball player or something like that. I'm not really sure. I'm not good at sports and I forgot, because when you binge something, I don't even know why, when you read something in under 24 hours, at least for me, I feel like I have these huge like gaps in my memory when it comes to like specific details. And so here we are. But basically he's a sports person. He has this like great accomplished career and stuff, except when he was in the earlier stages of his career, he ended up marrying his wife because they were like having kids and stuff. And you know, in the midst of everything, the hustle bustle, that was also the time he was about to make it big in the sports realm or whatever, and then she was left alone to look after their twins. There was a lot they've gone through together in the span of the last 3 years of their marriage, and because everything was so rush and they didn't really have the time to sit down and communicate and talk over the big things, what happens is that their relationship is now on their very last straw. And so he actually figures something out about his wife Thea, and then they have this like huge argument from where it devolves into her asking for a divorce because she's had enough of it. She cannot keep up and she cannot put up with it any longer. She feels like she's watching her life go by, and so he is suddenly dumbstruck because he thought she was the love of his life, and suddenly nothing really makes sense anymore. So he ends up going off on this like bender or whatever, trying to just lose himself away from the pain, except his like dude bro kind of friends find him and they're just like, you know what, we're gonna teach you and we're gonna help you save your marriage if that's the last thing we do, because they're like great friends or something like that. And so as it turns out, these like guys have this club called the Bromance Book Club, and they actually read these romance novels to kind of perfect their relationship with women better, because what better guide would you find about women than a romance book written by a woman talking about their needs? So they kind of had this thing wherein they read, I think at the moment they're reading like a Regency book. It's called Courting the Countess, and basically they kind of understand what's going on in the book to use those lessons to apply them into real life and kind of fix their relationships and whatever problems, and just make things better with whatever woman they're seeing, or if they're already married with their partners and stuff. And so there's like, I think like a bunch of them or whatever in that club, and they decide, okay, we're gonna recruit Gavin in and actually show him our ways or whatever. And so he gets part of the secret book club. He's learning all these different things that he didn't know before. He's learning how to be a better person, communicate more openly, except now you wonder, is it enough to get his wife back? And so that's this book. It is a second chance romance, one of my favorite tropes ever. So I had the best time honestly just binging and reading. I feel like the whole friend group of those guys, I don't know why I thought they'd be like alpha mean kind, but they're all just golden retrievers. So funny, so sweet, so cute, the best kind of group ever, not toxic at all. And so I think I had the best time ever. I can't wait to read the rest of the books, and I'm really hoping and praying, because I haven't looked it up yet, that the Russian gets his own book, because he was like the comedic relief of this book. It was so funny. I do believe the next book in the series follows Thea's sister and one of his friends or whatever in the book club, so that's gonna be fun because I wanted to read their books as well, and I can't wait to continue the series. Basically all I'm gonna say is I'm so happy this was on my 25 to read in 2025 list, because honestly I'm so happy it made the cut. It was literally perfect. I had the best time ever. It was sweet, it was swoony, it was giggly, but it also shows you that a relationship requires work despite the fact that you're married. Just because you're married, you can't really take things for granted. And I really like the messages behind it. I will say though, I think the relationship could have used a little more communication from the very beginning, and they wouldn't have been in the stages that they were towards the end. But it still made for a really good story. I had a good time, and the way he got her back with the grand gestures and stuff, I'm sorry, the way he learned from the romance books, we need more men like that these days, because that's just genius. That was perfect. I had the best time reading this, and so here we are. I think I'm gonna give this like 4 stars because of the fact that I had a surprisingly good time. I don't even know why I'm saying that, because I didn't expect to have a bad time, but I had a great time reading regardless. But yeah, here we are. I thought it was great. Somewhere towards the beginning or whatever, there's this one scene that keeps sticking out in my mind. Her sister is in the kitchen. She's overhearing them when they're talking because Gavin wants to talk after she asks for the divorce, and she ends up playing like all the single ladies on the Bluetooth speakers or whatever, and that's just so funny to me. So that's the kind of humor you'll find in the book. But there's also like sweet, swoony, wholesome moments, and then trying to like understand each other again, which was also really fun. So it was a great book overall. I'm happy I read it, and here we are. Right now, I'm not really sure if I'm in the mood for like another fantasy or another romance, because those are the only ones I think that are left on my 2025 to read list or something like that. So I will go check what I have, and then I will go pick something up accordingly. But right now, it's not that my brain cells feel fried or whatever, it's just that I want something easy. So maybe I'm going to pick another romance, but that nothing wrong with that, okay? It's not the end of the world if I read another romance back to back. And so we'll see what I end up doing, but that's the plans for right now. I will stay up potentially a little bit in the night today because I did end up napping earlier in the evening. And so hopefully if I'm pulling like half an all-nighter at least, and then with my commute tomorrow from college and back, I should have decent progress made on the next book by the time I come in and speak, or maybe even be done with it if it is a romance, because those get by so fast. And so I'll see you guys when I have updates for the next book. But basically, so far the video is going so strong because we're finding such good books. I feel like my luck is just so good this week, so hopefully it just continues the same way, and hopefully I enjoy books the same way because I'm having the best time ever. So we'll see how it goes, but this was a great one, and I would highly recommend if you haven't read it already. And I'm gonna go now, so bye. Hi guys, so it's been a couple days since my last update because it has taken me that long to get through our next book, which is called The Blonde Who Came In From the Cold. And if you know anything about me on this channel, that is so, I don't want to say disturbing, but that's really shocking from coming from someone like me, because for context, The Blonde Identity, which is like the first companion novel, I guess you can say, in the series, it follows the main girl in this book, her sister. That was like the first book I downloaded onto my Kindle for the very first time or whatever, when I got my Kindle for the first time. And it was also like, I think the second book I read on my Kindle. I remember finishing it in a weekend, being completely obsessed, and I will go back and reread at some point because I know it was like 5-star material. It's just in that moment I didn't realize it, and so that was like one of the best books of all time. But now going into this book, it took me longer to get through, and I'm not really happy with the way things turned out. So here I am to complain and gripe, because that's the point of, I guess, this update to you. Basically, I have finished at this point, and for like a quick premise, if you haven't already read the first book, I would suggest you not to go in this one because there's a lot of spy things that won't really make sense. And because it has been a couple years since I read the last book in the series or whatever, I didn't really do a reread before going into this, which I should have, but I don't think it would have changed the experience. There were a couple things that I was forgetting before I was like recapped on it as we went along in the book, but essentially it follows the main girl from the first book, her sister Alex. Now for context, in the first book, Zoe, the sister, had forgotten her memory, and she thought she woke up a spy with people like chasing around her because she had all these enemies, but as it turns out, she was the twin sister of a spy. And so in this one, you actually follow Alex, who is the twin sister, who is the actual spy, and what's going on in her life. It starts off in this like past timeline wherein 10 years ago she's joining the CIA, and then there's this other guy who joins in as well, Michael Kingsley, and essentially right off the bat you kind of see them developing as rivals. Then I believe the timeline goes wherein 6 years ago he quits, he's done with the life. 5 years ago something happens and suddenly they're completely fallen in love. I think it like develops over the years or whatever, but you can kind of see it fully in the 5 year ago timeline. Except now you directly jump to like a year ago wherein Alex walks out, into the cold, no intention of being traced, nothing happening. It does kind of align with the events of the first book, and so you need to read that to understand. But essentially, she's done with it and she's going into hiding and secret. No one can trace her, except something happens, and suddenly now in present timeline of this book, she and King, which I guess you can kind of say like they're broken up or whatever, but they're still in love with each other, they end up handcuffed to each other. They're bruised, they don't know where they are, they don't know who did this to them, they don't understand who they're supposed to be fighting against. They just know that the only people they can trust in the world at the moment are themselves, and suddenly they have to break out of that place, figure out where they are, figure out what whoever's vendetta against them is, and how to kind of move against that, because their lives are on the line. And in the midst of everything else, they are ex-lovers, I guess you can say, in a way or whatever, so they have to try not to fall back in love and figure out what problems separated them the first time. So it's very much like second chance almost, I want to say, but at the same time forced proximity and all these other things going on. And you would think that would be my very favorite book of all time, because I remember a couple years ago when I read the first book in the series, The Blonde Identity, I remember at the very end of that book, I was like literally petitioning for Alex to get her own book. And a couple years now, later down the line, now that she has got it, I was so excited to get into it, but for some reason, it just wasn't my cup of tea. So I feel like it was maybe because of the past and present timeline. Not to say that I don't like that stuff. When I normally read it, those are my favorites ever. But I feel like in this book, something about it and the back and forth, I was getting confused with the timeline, number one. And number two, I feel like the spy stuff in this book wasn't so great. Like, I wasn't really inclined on the edge of my seat trying to figure out what was going down, because of the shuffling timelines, I just barely understood actually keeping up with the plot. And so by the time it hit you towards the end, I couldn't care less, because I didn't really retain much of it to begin with. And then to top everything else off, I feel like because of the timeline as well, I didn't really see much of their connection. It was good, but I feel like it was more the author telling you than showing you. And if you've read the first book in the series, I love it so much. I think about Zoe and Sawyer so many times in a day, honestly, even looking back 2 years down the line. So it's kind of weird to say it, but I just didn't enjoy this. I feel like it definitely could have been better if we had all 4 characters in this book and more of Zoe and Sawyer, because towards the end is when you truly started getting these two, and those scenes were literally 5-star material. Definitely could have saved the book, but because they weren't there for majority of it towards the beginning, I'd say the first like 95% because I'd hyped it up to be so much more in my head with all these other things going on. I think it was just the fault of my expectations that were a little too high. This wasn't for me. So unfortunately, I didn't have the best time reading. There were a couple great scenes here and there. I feel like Alex's humor and sarcasm is definitely unmatched, but I feel like that wasn't enough of a saving grace for this book. So that's a little disappointing, because I've read a new Allie book for the past couple years every time she releases one, and I've had the best time ever. Recently, I bought one of her Christmas ones, I think, the one I read last year, to reread again this year because it was that good. And I know I'm gonna reread The Blonde Identity soon. It's just this one specifically for me was such a miss, because a lot of it just didn't make sense for me, it didn't line up for me, and I couldn't see the connections in many places, including the spy stuff and the lover stuff. So this is disappointing to say that this is the first book by this author that I didn't really enjoy. So I'm gonna give it like maybe 3.5 stars. I was just so bored and done with it, and by the time I was, finished or whatever, I'm just happy to be moving on to the next book I'm reading. So unfortunately, here we are. Obviously, things will get better when I continue reading her backlist or whatever, as she keeps releasing more books, because they're really fun to go along with, don't get me wrong. It's all the spy and mystery stuff that truly reels me in every single time. It's just that this one, it's kind of sad because I've been waiting for this book for like a couple of years now, so it's kind of hard to admit, but it wasn't my cup of tea. So here we are. Maybe you'll enjoy it better than I did. I obviously am more of like a picky reader when it comes to reads, but hopefully next year's book, whatever she ends up releasing, if she does one, will be better than this one, because this wasn't for me, and that's okay. It's not the end of the world. So 3.5 stars, that still isn't a bad rating. It's just, it's not the 5 stars I expected it to be, which again, that's on me. But until then, now I have gone ahead and finished this. I was in the mood for more of like spy stuff or whatever, but because I don't have anything else left like that on my TBR, literally I don't know any other spy book, please comment your recommendations. I figured I'd go back to the drawing board, see what else options we've got, and so I figured I'd just jump back into fantasy again, because I feel like fantasy, everything else about it these days is unmatched, and I've really been enjoying that genre. So looking through my books, I did go ahead and pick something out, and I don't know why, maybe the slump is coming back. I am currently reading it, but I'm bored out of my mind. I'm having the worst time ever. I think that book is truly just like not holding up to the standards again I'd hyped in my head, so it's maybe my own fault with the expectations. But yeah, hopefully things get better because I'm still in the beginning stages and hopefully things will pick up. So right now I just wanted to come in and say I finished this book. I started the last book for this video, which is a fantasy, and hopefully, crossing my fingers, that'll go better than the way this one went. So maybe a genre switch was needed, but at the same time, it's not really working out at the moment at least, so we'll just have to see what happens. But that's my update for you. I'm just gonna go keep reading my fantasy and praying to God things get better, because right now, I'm sorry to say, I'm not having the best time ever. And this book again has been on my TBR for a couple of years now, so it's kind of sad to watch it kind of fall from my good graces, because I always thought it would be like the best book ever because Book Talk loves it. But apparently my tastes are like changing and evolving, and I guess growing into something that doesn't really align with the mass majority of opinions, which is sad. So we'll just have to see how it goes. But regardless, I'm just gonna go keep reading, and that'll be the final book of this video. So we'll have to see how it goes. Again, we'll probably take another couple days to get through it, because I think this book is like 500 pages long and I'm already having the worst time ever. So I'm just gonna have to slog my way through it. But until then, that's the update for right now. I'm gonna go get back to it, and hopefully I'll see you guys with a more fun update next time, praying that things get better, because if they don't, I don't want my slump back. That's my only concern at the moment, because I've been having such a good time these days with books that I'm scared is going to return, and I don't want that to happen. So we'll have to see where it goes, but that's my update. I'm going to go back to reading now, and yeah, lock in over the weekend now, hopefully finish my book out, and see you guys next time once I'm finally done with it. So that's it. Bye. Okay, and I went ahead and finished the final book for this video, but then there was no update. So here I am. The last book for this video is called Phantasma. It's a fantasy book. It was part of my 25 to read in 25, so I figured might as well just pick this one up to be done with it, and this will be the one that concludes the vlog. Basically, it's kind of like this fantasy book. I think you were able to ascertain that kind of follows this girl called Ophelia. Her sister kind of goes missing after they have this conflict because her mom has passed away, and now her sister's the only family that's left, so she figures she has to go to whatever lengths to kind of find her sister again and get her back, because listen, that's her only family at this point. So she actually figures out like a bunch of clues from her sister's diary that kind of lead her to suspecting that her sister has taken part in this game called Phantasma, which is essentially like in this Halloween-ish haunted mansion, and it's kind of like a game you play, except it's like deadly or whatever, because it's like 9 different levels, and each of them is like one level of hell or whatever. And at the very end of it, if you're the last person standing, you get like one wish from, I guess, like the devil himself or something like that, except she's just going in there to find her sister, leave with her and get out. But each level gets more complicated. Time is running out for her to find her sister. She could potentially lose her life in there, and there's only one thing that could be worse than that, and that's falling in love during the game of Phantasma, because that's actually one of the rules. You're not supposed to fall in love. And so she figures she'll be okay. She's trying to navigate, find her sister, except each time it's getting harder because you don't know who to trust in here. Except there's this like ghost guy, I guess you can call him, that comes up like a demon, a phantom, who comes up, and she ends up kind of making an alliance with him. He's called Blackwell, to kind of find her sister sooner, and his deal in return or whatever as part of their pact is for her to kind of find the tether that links him to this place and kind of break it off so he can be free, or otherwise he'll take 10 years of her life and forfeit, and he'll help her. Except throughout it all, she starts falling in love with him, and suddenly she's not really concerned about saving her sister anymore. She's falling for this guy, this phantom. He's not even alive, I'm so sorry. And you know, it goes along with that, I guess, storyline or whatever. She's hunting for her sister, she's falling for him, she's not supposed to, she's trying to stay alive in these games. And it's very interesting the way it's written, because at the very beginning it's very insta-lovey, heavy on that, and so right off the bat she knows she likes this guy, this phantom. I'm so sorry, every time I keep saying that, it physically hurts me. And so she knows she's falling for him, but she should be more concerned about her sister. But at some point she just doesn't care anymore. I feel she just is more focused on him, and there's nothing wrong with that. But then for me personally, it took away from that. And then the games, they were so complicated and mishmashy, I feel like, because I personally felt like they were all over the place, so I couldn't care less. And then the way it happened was that there was more focus on the romance between the two of them, which was hardly anything because it was insta-lust. And then there was hardly anything on the games, so I couldn't care less. And then at the very end, it's all explained to you, and suddenly it's not insta-love anymore, it's whatever, because once you learn the very ending or whatever, it kind of makes sense. But at the same time, I feel like this book was trying too hard to be ACOTAR, in the romance sense at least. and I don't know, it just wasn't for me. So personally, I really hated this book. It dragged on for a little too long. I feel like the internet definitely hyped it up more than it should have been for me personally, because it wasn't according to my taste. So I'm gonna give this like 3 stars and move on, because this kind of put me in a mini slump as I was reading it. Just had no urge whatsoever to read it. And so the cover is cute, but I don't think I'll be continuing the rest of the series simply because I couldn't care less about these characters. Her sister was the only one in this book with a spine, I will give her that, but I won't read her book, the one that's after this, because I was too bored on this one. The life is too short to kind of waste it trying to force myself to read books that I know I won't enjoy. So basically, I'm gonna cut the review short by saying this wasn't my cup of tea, and here we are regardless. There are better fantasy books out there. It's just this one wasn't it for me, and that's okay. If it's your favorite one, it's not the end of the world. Just take my reviews with a grain of salt, because I'm picky about everything, and if it's not up to my standards, even in the smallest bit, I'm probably gonna hate it like I always do, which is why here we are. That sounds like a miserable way to read, but that's just the way I do it. So regardless, we have gone ahead and finished this out, gave it 3 stars, and this was the last book for this video. Hopefully, regardless of the lack of and sporadic updates, you all had a fun time coming along with me, reading books that kind of prompted me from my journal and kind of going along checking those off as well. I haven't gone back to update my journal, and at this point I do need to be posting this video tonight, so I don't really know if y'all will get to see some of the spreads, but there will be a separate journal video coming later during Bookmas, so you will get to see how the journal turned out, like knowing that I've read a bunch of these books that kind of equate to me kind of finishing out spreads. So regardless, I feel like we have gone ahead and still managed to finish out the whole purpose of this video, just kind of to get through some of the spreads, which is fun because we finally did it. So here we are, regardless of the journey and the fact that I didn't find some great reads, at this point we're done. So hopefully you guys had a fun time coming along with me. If you did, like, comment, share, subscribe. YouTube things, you know how to do them. And I'll see y'all for tomorrow's Bookmas, which is going to be very fun because I'm actually in the middle of recording that video right now. I'll give you a hint, I'm reading this, which is why I can't really be bothered to give proper reviews at this moment. I'm still processing and reeling from this, but y'all will get to see that tomorrow. So until then, stay safe out there. Stay tuned for tomorrow's vlog, because it's going to be a long and fun one when I discuss and dissect my opinions on Alchemized. But until then, take care. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see y'all in tomorrow's video. So that's it. Bye.